Welcome to USA Stories channel. We hope you will have fun with us. Enjoy watching. The air was thick with the scent of Amelia as I walked through the garden, my fingers trailing along the petals, each touch a fleeting moment of peace. My name's Olivia, and at 35 I've carved out a life that many would envy. A journalist by trades. Before the story spirals even further, make sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications for more. And when the story ends, don't forget to show your support through likes and comments. My days are spent chasing shadows, uncovering truths that others would prefer to remain buried. But tonight, as I sit here, the weight of my pen feels heavier than usual. The paper before me, a canvas for confessions I've long held at bay. Jacob, my husband, is a software engineer, his mind a labyrinth of codes and algorithms, his heart as gentle as the breeze that rustles through our suburban home. We've built a life together, a tapestry woven with threads of shared dreams, laughter, and the occasional squabble over mundane things like who left the coffee maker on. But beneath this seemingly perfect facade, a storm was brewing, one that would challenge the very foundation of our marriage. Murphy, our golden retriever, lies at my feet, his loyalty a constant in this shifting world. His eyes watch me with a knowing gaze, as if he senses the turmoil within. It's in his presence that I find the courage to delve into the past, to unravel the events that have led me to this moment of confession. It all started with an assignment, a deep dive into the underbelly of a city's elite. My editor's voice echoed in my mind. Olivia, this could be your Pulitzer. Uncover the secrets, no matter where they lead. Little did I know the journey would take me far from the comfort of our home into places where the shadows whispered secrets too dark for the light of day. The investigation required me to frequent haunts far removed from my usual circles. I found myself in dimly lit bars, the kind where the air hangs heavy with smoke, and whispered deals where the clink of glasses was a prelude to confessions. I became someone else, adopting personas that allowed me to blend into these worlds, to become invisible yet all-seeing. Each night, as I returned home, the contrast between my two lives grew. Stark Jacob, with his soft smiles and gentle inquiries about my day, remained blissfully unaware of the darkness I was navigating. I'd kiss him goodnight, the taste of deceit lingering on my lips, and retreat to my study, where the silence was a stark reminder of the secrets I was keeping. The deeper I delved, the more I realized that the corruption wasn't just out there in the city's veins, but it was seeping into my own life, into the very fabric of our marriage. I was changing, becoming someone I barely recognized, driven by a need to expose the truth, no matter the cost. And then there was that night, the one that changed everything. I was at a gala, the kind where the rich and powerful parade, their opulence, their masks of civility barely concealing their true natures. It was there, amidst the clicking of crystal and the murmur of false camaraderie, that I saw something that made my heart skip a beat, not a piece of evidence or a whispered secret, but a reflection of myself in a mirror. Distorted by the opulence around me, I saw not the journalist, the seeker of truth, but a woman lost in her own narrative, her morals blurred by the allure of the story. That moment was a revelation, not about the elite but about me. What I discovered about myself in the process was far more shocking than any story I could write. Now, as I sit here, the pen hovering above the paper, I realize that this confession isn't just about the investigation. It's about the journey I've taken, the person I've become, and the choices I've made that have led me to this precipice. The truth I've learned isn't just out there, it's within us, and sometimes it's the hardest to face. The assignment was simple yet complex. Infiltrate the social circles of the city's wealthiest to expose their secrets. My editor believed there was a story of corruption or scandal waiting to be unearthed. To blend in, I had to adopt a persona, one that was more glamorous, more daring than Olivia the journalist. This new persona, Danny, frequented high-end hotels, cocktail parties, and exclusive events. Jacob, supportive as always, encouraged me, albeit with a hint of concern in his eyes. Just be careful, Olivia. These people play by different rules, he had warned. One evening, after a particularly draining event, I found myself alone in the lobby of the Grand Regency Hotel, a place known for its opulence and discretion. The lobby was a labyrinth of plush seating areas, hidden nooks, and the soft murmur of the elite. It was here, amidst the velvet and marble, that I first felt the weight of my loneliness, the isolation of my undercover life. The chandeliers above cast a warm golden glow, but it did little to dispel the chill that had settled in my bones. I sat on a plush velvet couch, the kind where you sink in, and the world outside seems to fade away. I watched as people passed by, their laughter and conversations, a distant echo like a soundtrack to a life I was merely observing. I had become Danny the socialite, with a penchant for the finer things. But at what cost? The more I delved into this world, the more I felt like I was losing Olivia, the woman who loved the quiet mornings with Jacob, the simple joys of our life together. As I sipped on my drink, a man approached, his suit tailored to perfection, his smile practiced and polished. "You look like you could use some company," he said, his voice smooth like silk. I nodded, playing my part, but inside I was screaming for solitude. He sat down and we exchanged pleasantries, his eyes scanning me as if I were a puzzle he was eager to solve. His name was Adam, a name I had heard whispered in the circles of power, a man with connections that could either make or break careers' lives. We talked about art, about the latest exhibitions, and the upcoming charity events. But beneath the surface I could feel the undercurrents of something more sinister. Adam was probing, trying to gauge my worth not just as a socialite but as a potential ally or adversary. The conversation shifted subtly at first to business dealings, to the whispers of deals made in shadows, deals that could topple empires or build them anew. My heart raced, not from fear, but from the thrill of being so close to the truth I sought. Then, in a moment that seemed almost trotted, Adam leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "There's a gathering tomorrow night, very exclusive. I think you might find it enlightening." His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. This was a break. I needed the chance to see behind the curtain. But at what cost? My mind raced with the possibilities, the dangers, the secrets that might be revealed. I agreed to attend, my voice steadied, despite the turmoil within. Adam smiled, a predator satisfied with his prey's compliance. As he left, I felt the weight of my decision settle around me like a cloak alone. Once more I looked around the lobby, now seeing it not just as a place of luxury, but as a stage for the games of the powerful. The isolation, I felt, was not just from my separation from Jacob, but from the realization that in this world, trust was a luxury few could afford. The next day, as I prepared for the event Adam had invited me to, I couldn't shake off the feeling of dread mixed with anticipation. Jacob's words echoed in my mind, a reminder of the stakes these people play by different rules. I dressed in my finest, the silk of my gown, whispering secrets as I moved. The mirror reflected not just my image but the transformation I had undergone. Danny was ready, but was Olivia prepared for what she might uncover as I entered the venue? A private estate with gates that whispered of secrets locked away. I felt the gravity of my mission. The air was thick, with the scent of money, power, and the faint aroma of danger. The gathering was unlike any event I had attended before. Here the masks were not just metaphorical. People wore them, literal masks that hid their identities, their true intentions. The atmosphere was charged electric with the thrill of the unknown, the allure of the forbidden. I mingled, my laughter mingling with theirs, my eyes scanning for clues, for whispers of the truth. And then in a secluded corner, away from the prying eyes of the party, I saw him, Adam, in conversation with a figure whose mask was as ornate as it was unsettling. They were discussing something, their voices low but intense. I moved closer, my heart pounding, the thrill of discovery pushing me forward. But what happened next in that secluded corner of the lobby would change everything. The night was winding down and the lobby had emptied out, leaving only the soft glow of chandeliers and the distant hum of the city outside. I was about to leave when I noticed Murphy, who had accompanied me for company, wandering off following him. I found myself in a secluded nook, a small curtained-off area designed for privacy. In that moment, overwhelmed by the stress of my dual life, the loneliness, and perhaps the influence of the several glasses of champagne, I did something unthinkable. I engaged in an act of physical infidelity. Not with another person, but with Murphy. It was a moment of madness, a lapse in judgment that I could neither explain nor justify. The shock of what I had done hit me like a tidal wave. I was not only cheating on Jacob, but in the most bizarre and taboo way imaginable. My heart pounded in my TA mix of guilt, confusion, and a strange, unsettling relief. I sat there, the plush velvet of the couch, now feeling like a trap, my mind racing with the implications of my actions. I looked at Murphy, his tail wagging, oblivious to the turmoil he had unwittingly become a part of. His innocence only deepened my sense of betrayal. How could I have let myself go so far from who I was, from the values I held dear? The silence of the lobby was deafening, the soft hum of the city outside, a stark contrast to the chaos within me. I felt like I was drowning in my own deceit, the layers of my undercover life peeling away to reveal a core I no longer recognized. I stood up, my legs shaky, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts I needed to get out to breathe, to think. I walked back into the main lobby, my steps echoing in the vast empty space. The grandeur of the Grand Regency Hotel now seemed like a facade, a hollow shell mirroring the emptiness I felt inside. As I stepped outside, the cool night air hit my face, a sharp reminder of reality. I walked aimlessly, my mind replaying the night's events, each step a heavy echo of my guilt. The city lights blurred into streaks of color, my vision clouded by tears I hadn't realized were falling. I found myself at a park, the one Jacob and I often visited on our walks with Murphy, the familiar side of the bench where we'd sit. Sharing quiet moments now felt like a mockery of our life together. I sat down, the wood cold beneath me, and I let the weight of my action settle. The realization hit me hard. I had crossed a line not just in my marriage, but in my own moral compass. The thrill of the investigation, the allure of uncovering secrets, had blinded me to the person I was becoming. I thought about Jacob, his gentle nature, his unwavering support. How could I face him now? How could I look into his eyes without the shadow of my betrayal darkening every moment? The park was quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. I pulled out my phone, my fingers trembling. As I dialed his number, it rang, each tone a reminder of the life I was risking. When he answered, his voice was warm, concerned. "Olivia, is everything okay?" he asked. I hesitated, the words caught in my throat. "Too need to talk to you." "Jacob, can we meet somewhere, just us?" His voice softened, sensing the urgency. "Of course. Where are you?" I gave him the location, my voice barely above a whisper as I hung up. I knew this was the beginning of a conversation that would change everything. Sitting there, waiting for him, I felt the weight of my confession pressing down on me. The truth, I realized, was not just about exposing the elite or their secrets. It was about facing myself, about acknowledging the darkness I had let seep into my life. Jacob arrived, his figure a silhouette against the park's dim lights. His face was etched with concern. As he approached, I stood, my heart in my throat, knowing that the next words I spoke would either salvage or shatter our life together. "Jacob," I began, my voice breaking, "I've done something I can't even begin to explain." He took my hands, his touch grounding me. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together," he said, his voice steady, his eyes searching mine for the truth. I took a deep breath, the confession on the tip of my tongue. But before I could speak, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Adam, cryptic yet urgent. "The gathering tonight was just the beginning. There's more you need to see. Meet me at the old warehouse, by the docks at midnight." The message was like a lifeline, a distraction from the confession I was about to make. Here was another piece of the puzzle, another chance to delve deeper into the world I hadn't infiltrated. But at what cost? Jacob's gaze was still on me, waiting for my words. I looked at him, torn between the life I had built with him and the shadows I was chasing. "Too need to tell you something, but first there's something I must do," I said, the decision made in a split second. His expression shifted, a mix of confusion and hurt. "Olivia, what's going on?" "I'm Sorzam. I'll explain everything, but I have to go now. It's part of the investigation." I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. He nodded, his trust in me unwavering. Yet I could see the flicker of doubt in his eyes. "Be careful," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. As I walked away, the weight of my actions, my lies, and the impending confrontation with Adam felt like chains around my ankles. The night was far from over, and the real twist was yet to come, one that would make this incident seem trivial in comparison. The days that followed were a haze, each moment blurred by a cocktail of guilt, confusion, and an overwhelming urge to confess. Every time I looked at Jacob or Murphy, A wave of shame washed over me, rendering me almost mute. My work, once my sanctuary, now felt like a prison, my focus shattered by the internal storm. One evening, as Jacob worked late into the night, the silence of our home was deafening. I sat at our kitchen table, the same one where we had shared countless meals, now a stage for my confession. I pulled out a piece of paper, my hand trembling. As I began to write, the words flowed not just as an explanation, but as a desperate plea for understanding. I detailed the night at the hotel, the isolation I felt, the inexplicable act with Murphy, and the loneliness that had driven me to such an edge. Tears fell onto the paper, sludging the ink, but with each word I felt a strange relief, as if each confession was lifting a weight from my soul. I wrote about how the investigation had changed me, how the lines between right and wrong had blurred, how I had lost myself in the pursuit of truth. As I reached the end of my letter, I paused the pen, hovering over the paper. I was about to seal the envelope when the doorbell rang, its chime slicing through the quiet like a knife. My heart skipped a beat. Who could it be at this hour? I walked to the door, my legs feeling like lead. When I opened it, there stood Adam, his presence as unsettling as ever, his eyes scanning me with that same probing intensity. "From the hotel lobby, Olivia," he said, his voice smooth, but with an edge of urgency. "I need to speak with you. It's about the gathering. There's something you need to see." His unexpected arrival threw me off balance. Here was the man who had inadvertently led me to my darkest moment, now standing on my doorstep, pulling me back into the world I was trying to escape. "Adam sits late," I managed to say, my voice shaky. "What do you want?" "It's not about what I want, Olivia. It's about what you need to know. There's more to this story, more than you've uncovered." "It's urgent," he insisted, stepping forward as if to enter. I hesitated, the letter still in my hand, the confession I was about to make, now hanging in the balance. Two is just about to. Whatever it is, it can wait. Adam cut me off, his tone, leaving no room for argument. This can't. The gravity of his words, the urgency in his eyes, made me reconsider. Here was a chance to perhaps find redemption in my work, to make sense of the chaos within me by diving deeper into the investigation. But at what cost? I looked back at the letter, then at Adam. My heart was torn between the need to confess and the pull of the story, the truth that was still out there, waiting to be uncovered.
"All right,"
I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Let's go." Adam nodded, a slight smirk playing on his lips, as if he had anticipated my compliance. We stepped out into the night, the cool, a stark contrast to the warmth of my home, the place where my confession lay unfinished. As we drove towards the docks, the city lights faded into the background, and the darkness of the night enveloped us. Adam was silent, his focus on the road, but I could feel the tension, the unspoken questions hanging between us. The warehouse loomed ahead, an old decrepit structure that whispered of secrets and shadows. Adam parked, and we walked towards it, the crunch of gravel under our feet, the only sound in the still night. Inside, the warehouse was dimly lit, the air thick with dust and the faint smell of decay. Adam led me to a corner where a small group was gathered, their faces obscured by the shadows. "Here," Adam whispered, handing me a small device. "Listen to this." I pressed play, and the recording filled the silence, voices discussing deals that could shake the very foundations of our city. It was the evidence I needed, the missing piece that could expose the corruption at the highest levels. But as I listened, my heart sank further. This was not just about the elite. It was about the choices I had made, the paths I had taken, and the person I had become. The recording ended, and Adam looked at me, his expression unreadable. "Now you know," he said. "What will you do with this?" The weight of the decision was immense. Here was the truth I had sought, but it came at a personal cost. I hadn't anticipated. I thought of Jacob, of the confession I had left unfinished, of the life we had built together, now hanging in the balance. "I need time," I said, my voice firm, despite the turmoil inside. "I need to think." Adam nodded, understanding the gravity of the moment. "Take your time, Olivia, but remember, time is not something we have in abundance." As I walked back to the car, the night seemed darker, the shadows deeper. The truth was out there, but so was my own darkness, my own secrets. The confession I had begun was not just about the investigation. It was about me, about facing the person I had become in the pursuit of a story. The drive back was silent, each of us lost in our thoughts. When Adam dropped me off, I stood outside my home, the letter still on the table inside waiting for me. The choice was clear, now not just between confession and silence, but between the life I had and the life I was living. I stepped inside the door, closing behind me with a soft click, sealing me back into the world. I had momentarily escaped. The letter lay there, a testament to my guilt, my confusion, my desire for forgiveness. But now there was more at stake than just my personal redemption. There was a story to tell, truths to expose, and perhaps in the process, a chance to find myself again. The night was far from over, and the real twist was yet to come, one that would make this incident seem trivial in comparison. The unexpected visitor was none other than Jacob, who had come home early due to a cancelled meeting. He found me with the letter in hand, my face a mask of guilt. "What's that?" he asked, his voice gentle but curious. I handed him the letter, my heart pounding in my C********T. As he read, his expression changed from confusion to disbelief, and then to a profound sadness. "Olivia, how could you?" His voice was barely a whisper, but it cut through the silence of our home like a knife. The room felt smaller, the air heavier as we stood there, the truth hanging between us. I watched as Jacob's eyes scanned the words I had poured onto the paper, each line a confession of my darkest moment. His face, usually so open and warm, now seemed to close off a storm brewing behind his eyes. "You don't know what to say." I stammered, the weight of my actions pressing down on me. Jacob looked up from the letter, his gaze piercing through me. "You've been living another life, Olivia, a life I knew nothing about. How long has this been going on?" "It's not just about that night, Jacob," I said, my voice trembling. "It's about everything, the investigation, the secrets, the person I've become." He shook his head slowly, the letter crumbling in his grip. "This isn't just about your work. This is about us, about trust, about everything." The silence stretched between us, thick and oppressive. I could see the pain in his eyes, the betrayal etched into every line of his face. "I need some air," Jacob finally said, his voice hollow. He turned and walked towards the door, leaving the letter on the table, its edges now frayed from his tight grasp. I followed him, my steps hayment. "Jacob, please, let's talk about this. I need to explain." He paused at the door, his hand on the handle. "Explain? How you explain something like this? Olivia, how do you explain losing yourself to the point where you do something so unthinkable?" The accusation, in his words, felt like a physical blow. I was lost, Jacob. I was drowning in this world of shadows and deceit. I didn't know how to pull myself out. He turned back to face me, his eyes searching mine. "And what about us? What about the life we've built together? Did that mean nothing to you?" "It meant everything," I whispered, tears now streaming down my face. "That's why I'm telling you now. I can't keep living like this with a secret eating away at me." Jacob sighed, a deep, weary sound. "I need time, Olivia, time to think, to understand. This isn't something we can just talk away." "I know," I said, my voice fairly audible. "I'll give you all the time you need, but please don't shut me out completely." He nodded, his expression softening slightly. "I won't, but I need to be alone right now." As he left the door, closing softly behind him, I felt the full weight of my solitude. The house, once a sanctuary, now echoed with the emptiness of my confession. I returned to the kitchen where the letter lay, its ink smudged by my tears. Sitting down, I reread my own words, each one a reminder of the path I had taken, the choices I had made. The investigation had consumed me, leading me down a rabbit hole of moral ambiguity and personal betrayal. The night stretched on, each tick of the clock, a reminder of the time slipping away, of the life I had risked, of the love I might have lost. I knew the climax of our story was not just about my confession. It was about what Jacob did next, about whether he could find it in his heart to forgive, to understand, or if this would be the end of us. As I waited, the silence was broken only by the distant sounds of the city, a city full of secrets just like the one I had been chasing. But now the most significant secret was out, and with it the future of my marriage hung in the balance, waiting for Jacob's next move. Jacob returned after what felt like an eternity. He didn't say a word as he sat down beside me, his hand reaching for mine. The warmth of his touch was both comforting and painful, a stark contrast to the cold dread that had settled in my heart. "I love you, Olivia, but this is something we need to work through together," he said, his voice steady but filled with pain. We sat there, the silence between us, thick with unspoken words. Then he began to speak, his voice low, almost a whisper, as if afraid to break the fragile peace we were trying to rebuild. "I felt neglected, Olivia. I was lonely in our marriage, even when you were right here. I didn't know how to tell you, how to express that. I needed more from you, from us." His confession hit me like a wave, washing over the guilt I felt with a new layer of understanding. Here was Jacob, the man who had always been my rock, admitting his own vulnerabilities. It was a raw, honest conversation that neither of us had anticipated, but it was necessary. "I'm sorry, Jacob," I said, my voice breaking. I was so consumed by my work, by the secrets and the darkness I was uncovering, that I lost sight of what was truly important. "I lost us." He squeezed my hand, his eyes meeting mine, with a depth of emotion that made my heart ache. "I know you were chasing something important, something that could change lives, but at what cost? Olivia, at the cost of our marriage, of who you are." We talked for hours, delving into the depths of our relationship, the pressures I had faced, and the loneliness he had endured. It was a conversation of trust, of rebuilding, of understanding the fractures in our life together. In the end, we decided to seek counseling to rebuild what had been fractured. Our marriage was not over, it was just beginning. A new chapter, one of healing and understanding. We both acknowledged that the journey ahead would be difficult, but we were committed to walking it together. As for Murphy, he remained our loyal companion, oblivious to the storm he had inadvertently been part of. He lay at our feet, his tail occasionally thumping against the floor, a symbol of the innocent we were striving to reclaim in our lives. The days following our decision were filled with a cautious optimism. We attended our first counseling session, where we laid bare our fears, our hopes, and our commitment to each other. The therapist, a kind woman with eyes that seemed to see right through to the heart of our issues, guided us gently but firmly through the process. Jacob and I started to communicate more openly, sharing not just the mundane details of our day, but our feelings, our doubts, our dreams. It was like learning to speak a new language, one where every word carried the weight of our shared history and the promise of a future together. One evening, as we sat in the quiet of our living room, the soft light casting shadows that danced on the walls, Jacob turned to me. "I've been thinking, Olivia, maybe it's time for you to step back from the investigation, not forever, but for now, to focus on us." His suggestion was like a lifeline, a chance to breathe, to heal. "I think you're right," I admitted, feeling a weight lifter from my shoulders. "I need to find balance again, to remember who I am outside of the shadows." The decision to pause my work was not easy. The story I had been chasing was still out there. The corruption still needed to be exposed, but I realized that my own life, my own truth, needed attention. First, Jacob and I began to rebuild our routines, our rituals. We started taking walks with Murphy again, not just as a way to escape the confines of her home, but as a way to reconnect with each other. The simple act of walking side by side, sharing the silence or the laughter, became a metaphor for our journey together. In counseling, we learned techniques to communicate better, to listen, not just to the words but to the emotions behind them. We practiced forgiveness, not just for the act that had brought us to this point, but for all the small neglects, the missed opportunities for connection. One day, as we sat in our garden, the scent of Amelia once again filling the air, Jacob took my hand. "I want you to know, Olivia, that I'm here. I'm here for the hard days, for the healing, for whatever comes next." His words were a balm to my soul, and I'm here too. "Jacob, I'm here to rebuild, to love, to make amends." Our story was not ending. It was evolving. Each day was a step towards forgiveness, towards understanding, towards love. The investigation, the secrets, they were still out there. But for now, our focus was inward, on the healing of our marriage, on the rediscovery of each other. If you enjoyed this suspenseful story and want to hear more, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more thrilling content.